Hello and welcome to another episode of Do Not Fade This podcast. My name is Joshua Reimer, joined by none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Jared Block. Jared, how are you doing on this fine Friday afternoon?
Yeah, we're usually not here on Fridays, so it feels a little bit different, but we have a small 6 game Friday card. I don't know the last time that I could say we've had this few of games on a Friday, and we're certainly not going to get that for baseball, as those are full 15 game days. So it's been nice to kind of just take my time with the slate today because I'm the primary one doing the research, and you're here for hosting purposes, which I greatly appreciate. We did not podcast yesterday, so we weren't able to talk about over podcasting the amazing night that we had on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then Thursday kind of came crashing back down to earth a little bit. Got some stuff right. Jalen Johnson came through for us. Isaiah Collier came through for us for the most part, although that was a sweat towards the end. And then a couple of spots fell short. So I took some time to kind of just take a deep breath and look over some stuff and found that we have a really nice 6 game slate on paper. There are some games, though, that are trappy and landmines. We'll talk about that as we go through this podcast. But yeah, on a 6 game card, usually you don't see too many things that stand out. We got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, definitely excited to talk with you. Like you said, a really good Wednesday night. Felt really good about that, especially because it was my last day covering content. So, felt really good to get that dub. Obviously, didn't have the best night last night, but we rebound tonight, hopefully. Like you said, weird 6 game slate on a Friday. Usually it's anywhere from 8 to 10 games for you on Fridays. But we have a massive Saturday tomorrow, which is going to be a lot of fun to cover. And then they actually planned for the Super Bowl. Did you see NBA? I think it's the first time that I've seen NBA scheduling plan not to
Yeah.
be on during the Super Bowl.
Unfortunately, you get a really loaded Saturday. That is the
Which is
compromise. But
Yeah.
yeah, Sunday they did actually do their due diligence. So
Yeah. Every
it'll
game
be
starts at in the afternoon, 2 to 4 p.m. for all 4 games. And it's only 4 games, which is even better. So
This is a good time to announce that everything for NFL is we're 90% already updated for content wise. Like the rundown's been out since Monday. Projections came out for Super Bowl today. And I think that it is in our best interest to get all that content out to Trinity Analytics members over the next 12 hours here. And I'll get that up before, probably after the NBA locks today, to make sure you guys get all that value in before Sunday, because I'll say it again later, but I don't think there's any value betting on the NBA on Saturday or Sunday. I think that kind of closes tonight.
you mean the Super Bowl. But yes, I
Super
agree.
Bowl. What did I say?
You said NBA. There's definitely
Oh.
value on betting on NBA,
There's definitely
especially
value
on
on
Sunday.
NBA.
We won't be able to talk about it, but no one will be focused on it. Everyone will
Yeah.
be putting out kind of just black content because they'll be focused on Super Bowl stuff. I'm purely dedicated to NBA on Sunday. I don't have any. I mean, outside of projections, which are not going to get reran most likely because I can't imagine anyone sitting that we don't already know about. I'm fully focused on NBA, at least until the game starts, the Super Bowl starts. So, yeah, Sunday will be a lot of fun, and so will Saturday because it's a massive slate. But we have 6 games to talk about today, Jared. Let's start talking about them. Let's start out like we always do and talk about this injury slate. I'm looking at everything for the first time, in case anyone doesn't know. I'm not doing content today. It's just Jared. So looking at injuries initially, and my God, what a mess this Knicks and Pistons game is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, so fortunately for us, we got our refund back from Jalen Duren, who was in a great spot last night. We don't know if he's going to play tonight. I would assume, considering he didn't play the second half yesterday with a knee injury, he probably doesn't play tonight. So we should see Isaiah Stewart in a spot where I don't even know who the starting center is on the other side, because we have Karl Anthony Towns listed as doubtful. He was questionable coming into the day. Now, as of 3 p.m., Underdog lists him doubtful, so it most likely will be Mitchell Robinson. Interesting spot. We're not going to talk about that game that much for what it's worth. So we'll have to at least mention it from time to time. But yeah, that one's a mess. Domantas Sabonis, Julius Randle, Denny Avdia, Jalen Duren, like I said before, OG Anunoby, and Bobby Portis are questionable. We should note that Kyle Kuzma for the Bucks is already out, along with Giannis. probable Josh Hart, Tobias Harris, Duncan Robinson. And then we have some updated. So we're going to start talking about some teams, and this will come into play more next week when we get a couple of games of sample size on how all this trade stuff is working. But we do know that Nikola Vucevic is expected to play for Boston in that first game there. We'll see if he starts or not. I'm not sure how we'll view that, but other things to look at today. We'll see what ragtag starting lineup Memphis is going to put together. We'll see what happens to the Clippers when they don't have Harden and Zubac. And we'll see what happens. Who else had some major trades that I missed? I think that's kind of it. We're not going to see Zubac in Indiana tonight. So, yeah, starting to see how these new teams are going to start to come together here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, anything else here? If not, we can head over to top implied totals.
Nope, we can move forward.
Let's do it. Let's move over there and let's talk about this top implied total team, which is going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves today. They have a 123 implied total. They are 8.5-point favorites right now. That has come down from them being 10.5-point favorites when the market opened. So something interesting to note at the very least. And over under here is at 236.5. Randall still questionable. They definitely made a few moves at the deadline, but nothing that's really going to affect the rotation today. They're not going to have Dosunmu yet.
Right.
Yeah, give me your thoughts on Minnesota. What do you think about them today?
Yeah, you said they're 8.5-point favorites live right now.
Correct.
That kind of tells me that we should plan for Julius to sit. That does make sense from that angle, but we'll include him for the purpose anyway. It's not really a Randall game necessarily. It would have been from like a peripheral standpoint, so maybe he'll be mentioned in the DVP conversation. But this is purely like New Orleans is doing two things really poorly right now. They are allowing a ton of above the break threes, and they're allowing a ton of restricted area scoring, and that is pretty clear. You can kind of it's pretty black and white on what you want to do when you're looking at Minnesota today. You like the 3-point scoring opportunities from guys like Ant Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo, and then you like the restricted area scoring from not only Ant but Gobert as well. With that said, I want to point out, because it'll be brought up in hottest shooters, but I do want to bring this up here as well. DiVincenzo actually does outrank Anthony Edwards right now in terms of above the break scoring and trends wise as well. Ant has not been a 3-point scoring guy recently, though he does still continue to put up these 30-point games. It has been DiVincenzo who's kind of turned it around from 3, so he's back on this streak again. He has 3+ threes in 9 of his last 10 games, and so you're not going to get the 2.5 line that you probably would have gotten about a month ago. You're going to get a 3.5 market for DiVincenzo, though I still think that that's definitely still something that can happen. From there, I want to get your thoughts on the Edwards versus DiVincenzo stuff, because if you also look at DVP, you're going to see a drastic difference between shooting guards and point guards scoring in a negative light for Ant. Does that concern you? He still has scored like religiously at 30 points recently. I don't know. I kind of lean with DiVincenzo right now, but I could go either way.
Yeah, I will say Edwards has had a good last 3 games for sure. I would love to look at on off-court stuff to see. I think we've talked about this before, haven't we? Doesn't it like not benefit Edwards at all, or have we? I don't know. I'd have to go look just because I'm curious. I'll look at it when we later here. But yeah, I definitely like the Dante spot. I feel like that's where you need to highlight, especially with him outscoring Edwards on above the break threes. Like that's the Pelicans' main weakness, and I feel like the Edwards is a good secondary spot, but it feels like the Dante spot's really good to start out. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's not a huge drastic difference in terms of how this team's going to operate, but we should at least mention that Mike Conley is technically being brought back after. I always wonder if these teams, like, I don't think that he traveled anywhere. They're probably just like, hey, just, chill out for a few days. But they ended up bringing him back after trading. It must have been a money move or maybe like a Giannis attempt or something like that. But
Yeah.
Mike Conley is not going to play tonight from what I gather. So is he even eligible? Like, Just trying to see, like,
He's
FanDuel is
probably
completely
eligible, but he was already out of the rotation, wasn't he? Like for the most
for
part.
the most part. For the most part. So I
Yeah,
want to at
I
least
don't.
like
I
throw
wouldn't.
Bones Highland in the conversation too, because he just played 26 minutes and scored 20 points in that last game. It's a relatively similar profiling matchup in terms of guard weakness, so we should at least mention the Bones stuff as well.
Well, no, who should really be in the conversation is Naz Reid. Like this is a great spot for centers already. He probably going to get a more extended role if Randall's going to be out. He's the
Right.
third highest above the break shooter over the last 7 games for this Timberwolves team. He's actually tied with Edwards. They're both hitting 2.3 above the break threes over the last 7 games. I like this Naz Reid spot more than anything, and I know I looked at this on like Wednesday or Tuesday or whenever the Timberwolves last played, but Naz Reid has been he's still been cooking recently. He's had 16 plus points 4 out of the last 5 games. I feel like from 3 point range, 3 point range, he's been cooking too. 5 out of the last 6. He had that he had 6 threes against Memphis. Like all the way around, I like this Naz Reid spot a lot. Okay, anything else here? If not, let's move on to the next team.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's not really a McDaniel's spot. I will say, like, I would like Naz Reid a lot more in the pecking order over Gobert, just because of how the nature of these spots tend to go. Um, Gobert's just a sweat every single time, no matter how good the spot is. So just
Yep.
know that you're getting yourself into something with Gobert every single time. But yeah, I think right now, if I leave the conversation and come back to it, I will say that DiVincenzo is in the best spot on this team.
Could certainly get behind that. All right, let's move on to this next highest implied team total, which belongs to the Portland Trailblazers. They are at 120 team total for their team total. They were 6.5 point favorites when the game opened. Now they're 8.5 point favorites. Over-unders at 234.5. They're playing against this Memphis hodgepodge team that looks really gross right now. Give me your thoughts on Portland.
Yeah, I do like this from a few angles. We do know that, and again, I guess take this with a grain of salt because the team has changed tremendously. And I don't really know how much DVP necessarily matters, nor do I know if the zone scoring is going to necessarily completely correlate moving forward. But they are allowing a lot of above the break threes. They're a bottom 10 in terms of that regard. They're allowing a lot of corner threes, the third most in the NBA, and they are allowing the sixth most paint field goals per game over the last month. And I can't imagine that paint scoring getting any better with Jaren Jackson off the floor. So you say all those things, and you can look at, like, we've talked about this before. Portland's a tough team to really buy into when looking at exploiting above the break three weaknesses. Caleb Love is technically the top guy there. Shaden Sharp can certainly get there as well. But we have just seen recently that shooting guards and small forwards, like your scoring wings, scoring shooting guards, have really just decimated Memphis. Again, I wonder how much of that is consistent with what currently is on the floor for Memphis. So I'll go start that conversation with you right away. Can we trust that?
I don't know what to trust with Memphis. I think the best way to look at things with Memphis is to kind of look at their last game against Sacramento and kind of go a little bit based off of that, a little bit based off the DVP stuff we know. And while Memphis has been pretty good against the center position, you got to remember a lot of that's from Triple J and from some other key defenders that they've had. They don't even have Santi today. Like, they are just going to rely on Olivier Maxence Prosper. And I think he gets cooked by Klingon, man. Like, Klingon's way too strong of a center, way too big of a center. I feel like that's the spot that I like to rely on the most here. I think you can certainly go to the shooting guard position. You can certainly go elsewhere, but Sabonis had 18 shots in that game against Memphis, had 24 points and 15 boards. You got to remember, Sabonis isn't a big center. Like, he's a talented center, but like, he's not a super big guy. I think Klingon can clean up here. Outside of that, I wouldn't mind any 3-point shooter. It seemed like that game against Sacramento, we talked about it. Sacramento just didn't have a lot of above the break guys in that game,
Yep.
but they were still able to get there. Malik Monk got there. Russell Westbrook made 3 threes. He did take 10 shots, but he took he made three threes, and a few other guys did well from above the break. So I'm willing to trust in the Klingon stuff, and then outside of that, I'm willing to trust in any above the break stuff that you can get, whether that be your Caleb Loves, your Shaden Sharps. Denny plays, he's going to end up being a factor from that range. Feels like you do kind of have to figure out that Denny news before you feel super good about anything. I think Klingon's a guy that I'd really be willing to flag plant if I were in that role today.
Well, I was hoping that the Klingon conversation would wait for me until the round table, but
Sorry.
we're saying it here. I have to, it's a small slate, and I don't want to give everything away because obviously TA members come first. But like, Klingon's a top 3 play today, easily, and
Yeah.
I don't even think that the Denny news really teeters that one way or the other.
Yeah, would tend to agree there. All right, anything else here? If not, let's move on to another team here.
I think we're all set. If Denny is out, then I'd really like the spot for Sharp.
For sure. All right, let's move on to this next team, which is going to be the Boston Celtics. They have a 116 implied team total. They are 6-point favorites. Over-under is set at 226.5. They're facing off against the Heat today. What are your thoughts on the C's here?
I don't know. It's an interesting spot because we have seen this is obviously going to be the biggest pace-up spot imaginable for Boston and just for the slate in general. It's like 30-1 essentially from that regard. And we do know that the Heat are allowing a lot of above the break threes, and they're allowing a lot of paint stuff. And you can point to Jaylen Brown meeting both of those categories. You can also point to Vooch coming in right away and being able to dominate from the paint. He ranked sixth in the NBA over the month of January from the paint. So those things look good. And you also look at the above the break 3 scoring from this team. We know it's always kind of a carousel of guys, and they kind of just get the hot hand, and they all seem to sit in the top 60 in the league right now. They lose one of those guys with the Anthony Simons trade, and so what's left is you have Sam Hauser sitting at the top spot from above the break on this team. If you look at the last 30 days, he's averaging right around 2.5 makes off of roughly 6 attempts. You have Peyton Pritchard here, who's averaging over 2 threes. You have Jaylen Brown, who's averaging just exactly 2 threes. And Derek White kind of fell off in this regard. He was the only one that was outside the top 50 from above the break in the NBA, but he just had 6 threes in the last game that he played in. So good luck picking who the right guy is today. That's kind of where I want to start with this conversation. And then also, just like I mentioned it already, but Vooch is expected to play in this game. How much? I don't know. I don't even know if he starts. What does that mean for Keita? I don't think we're talking about Keita at all today in general. But yeah, there's just a lot of things you can go with here to start the conversation. I think what I want to do is wait this one out and see how it goes with Vooch before I get too excited.
Oh, sorry, I was muted there. So here's my fun fact of the day, or my fun stat of the day. When Anthony Simons is off the floor and Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, and Derek White are all on the floor together, Jaylen Brown has a 36% usage rate, Jared, and both Peyton Pritchard and Derek White have below a 20% usage rate. I think that's massive because, like, here's the thing. Now that you don't have Simons, you're kind of forced into a spot where you're going to have to play Derek White and Peyton Pritchard 32 plus minutes a game, anywhere from 32 to 35, which means they're sharing the court a lot, which means they kind of take away from each other, it seems like. And it feels like this is a good spot for JB. The DVP wise, it definitely points to Jaylen Brown. I think like the Vooch stuff is super volatile. Like, I could very easily see him play 24 and Keita play 24, or both of them play 20, or whatever ends up working out. But, like, the fact that the market is 11.5 points for him tonight, and that's something that he's hit in almost every game this season, doesn't spell good news. That just means that, like, Vegas knows that the rotations are definitely he's not going to play his usual 30-minute role. So, careful with the Vooch stuff. I think all in all, with the trade and everything, of Anthony Simons, that is, you should expect a lot from Jaylen Brown. Like Pritchard and White sharing the floor together has not been a good combo.
Could you check for me while I run through something what the Simons off the floor does for Hauser?
Yeah, I can. Just Simons off the floor. That's all you want to see. Nothing
Yeah.
like no one on the floor.
No, because how again, like Hauser is the team's top above the break guy right now, and I think that when you look at what he has done recently, outside of the game that he's missed recently due to injury, I just think that that's something you can at least feel. I'm trying to figure out if we even mess with this above the break stuff, or if we just fade it and focus on Jaylen Brown and see how the Vooch stuff works itself out.
Yeah, so with the Hauser stuff, he sees a slight drop in usage, 1.5%. He sees a slight increase in points, 2 points per 36 minutes, though that feels pretty wishy-washy to say the least. Uh, he gets more efficient with his shooting. That's about it. There's not a whole lot here.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, from like again, the DVP conversation with this team is always confusing. Like the point guard stuff is up in the air. They have Bailey Shireman playing now. Hauser's technically listed as the power forwards because they don't trust they don't trust the Josh Minotts anymore. Yeah, it's a weird spot for Boston. I do think that Jaylen Brown presents the clearest pathway to clarity on this side.
Yeah, without a doubt, I 100% feel the same way. Be curious about his historics against Miami, but we
Not
can look at
great,
that.
I'll tell you
Okay.
that. It's not
Sweet.
great. He did have a. Want to make sure I get this one right. I think he had a 45 PRA game against them. December 19th, he had a 30-point game, 46 PRA. From there, I don't think anything historical about Jaylen Brown makes any sense anyway, just because Tatum's in all of these mostly. So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just interesting spot in general for
For sure.
Boston.
For sure. All right. Do you want to talk about one more team? We've talked a lot about these teams, so we can definitely just move on to hottest shooters if you want, but it's up to you.
We can move on.
Let's move on. Let's go over to hottest shooters. I'll let you kick it off while I click through props.cash and try to find something.
Yeah, the guy that comes to mind first is a guy that we talked about a couple of days ago, and that was Trey Murphy, and he is back in this streaky, just like untouchable type of situation where he just went for 44 points, which was a career high. Flag planted him on that day, felt very good about it. I don't feel very good about him today necessarily, but I do want to mention that he has just, when you start to see his scoring reach levels above 25 points consecutively, you start to get super excited. Again, with that said, like his spot against Minnesota isn't that good today, but he definitely deserves to be hottest scorer of the day.
Can certainly get behind that. I'll bring up Cade Cunningham here. He's had 25 plus points in 4 out of the last 5 games and 5 out of the last 7 games as well. That's some solid scoring from him. He's kind of been a streaky scorer anyway this year. Like he has some stretches where he does really well. Then he has a 4-game stretch where he didn't score more than 20 points against Phoenix, Indy, Boston, and Houston earlier in January. But the recent stretch has been good to him, and I know the Knicks defense has improved. I know they have been playing really good ball recently. I will say that some of these games, not all of them, but some of these games have been against really bad teams. So something to at least keep in mind. And we saw Denver kind of push them to their limit. Maybe they end up coming out of this one a little bit tired. All right, who else do you got?
I have OG Anunoby, 19 plus points in 5 straight. We talked about him in the solid spot. Without Hart last time out, I think that if Towns were to miss, that would only get better for OG. I also have like Bam continues to score at a ridiculous clip. That'll truly be tested today in this interesting matchup against Boston with Vooch now in there. From there, we talked about Dante already. 3+3s in 9 of the last 10 games. And I want to just state that DiVincenzo is like getting to these levels just by hitting the 3. He's not really taken too many 2-point attempts. And that's been mainly what Ant has done recently. So DiVincenzo is just getting there from 3. And I wouldn't take him. I don't think I'd take him for straight up points. I'd want to just get threes in there as of right now. From there, I don't know. The only thing that because we have a lot of situations where again we're having a lot of teams either play with new players or figure out how they're going to play without their old players. So, um, yeah, that's kind of where I want to leave that.
Fair enough. All right. Anything else you want to mention here? If not, let's move over to round table.
I guess the last thing I'll mention too is that Levine has scored 17 plus points in 8 of his past 10 games. We haven't been able to talk about Levine in a streaky sense at any point, really, but no Keegan Murray, no. I didn't mention this at the top of the show, but Domantas Sabonis also got ruled out in the last hour. So that'll be a bump to all Sacramento guys, though unfortunately, like, I don't know what LA's defense looks like right now.
For sure. All right. Let's head over to round table, Jared. For those who don't know how it works, Jared and I bring some of our top plays in different statistical categories to the table to talk about. Those statistical categories are points, rebounds, and assists. We start out at points like we always do. And Jared, I'll let you take the floor. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, I will start the conversation with Ryan Rollins, who is Josh. He's a 9K FanDuel player right now.
My God.
They have listed at 8,700 on FanDuel today. He is the most consistent scorer on this side now that Giannis is out. And even like KPJ is going to throw some stuff into this over a decent sample as we move forward, as long as he can stay healthy. But yeah, Rollins is just playing 35 plus minutes a game. He's scoring. He has now his 20 plus points in 5 of his last 6. He is this team's offense right now, and we already know that Kyle Kuzma got ruled out, and we just know that Indiana can give up a lot to driving guards. So I like Ryan Rollins in this one.
Yeah, can certainly get behind that. I'm going to the other side, talking about this Pacers team, and I really like this spot for Aaron Naismith. Everything, I've been kind of looking while we've been talking and stuff, and everything checks the box here. Buck's main worry has been above the break threes, at least according to our our model, our research model as a whole. This Bucks team is now the worst above the break three defense in the NBA, taking the crown from the Jazz. So fun stuff there to target. And Aaron Naismith has kind of been this team's above the break three shooter. He's made 3+ threes in 5 straight games. Also, Milwaukee allowing the second most threes to the shooting guard position, allowing the second most points to the shooting guard position all over the last 7 games. Aaron Naismith checks a bunch of boxes today, so he's my guy to go to for points.
Yep, he certainly does. We have seen, like we mentioned before, the Trey Murphy. He had 12 threes against the Bucks in the last game. We saw it recently. We also saw Ayo Dosunmu, of all guys, get there as well with 3 threes. Yep. Anthony Simons had 6 against them a couple of games ago, earlier on February 1st. We also saw Jared McCain hit 5 against them in a blowout game. Like, this team is just getting smashed by shooting guards right now.
For sure. All right, where else do you want to go?
We'll go to rebounds here. We talked about Klingon. That's like the default, I wouldn't say free square, but it's the best spot on paper. We'll say that this is also a really good spot for Andrew Nembhard to get peripheral stats. So won't talk about him from assist standpoint, but rebounds can be Nembhard's thing as well. The Bucks have allowed the most rebounds to the point guard position over their last 7 games, and they've been a bottom 3 team in that regard the entire year. So Nembhard is my guy there, though. You can use Naismith too.
Yeah, can certainly get behind that. I'm going to go over to this Pelicans team and talk about Saddiq Bey here for a little bit, because this Minnesota team's really having some struggles with rebounding. So over the last 7 games, they've allowed the 2nd most rebounds to point guards, the 4th most rebounds to small forwards, and the 5th most rebounds to power forwards. Bey fits into that small forward role. He's had 6 rebounds in each of the games against Minnesota this season. He's had some low rebounding totals over his last 2 games, where he only had 3 in both of those, but one was against Charlotte, which tough game to rebound in regardless, because Charlotte's one of the best rebounding teams around, not even just recently, over the whole season. And Milwaukee, I feel like, is just a blip on the radar. Before that, though, he had 6, 8, 13 against OKC and 10 against San Antonio. I like the rebounding spot for Bey here, and we've seen him be a peripheral monster this season. I think he can definitely do it here. All right, assist. Where do you want to go?
I'm going to go to Pascal Siakam, who I know can be relatively risky with assists, but he's getting 4 to 6 in chunks here over the past month. And so, with that said, we've already talked about the matchup. I think you can go with Nemhard here if you'd like, but I do like the Siakam matchup in general. The Bucks have allowed the the third most assists to the power forward position over the last 7 games. That's fifth most on the season. And I think this is a perfect spot for a team that doesn't have Kyle Kuzma. Bobby Portis is dealing with a hip injury. I don't even know if he's going to play. And I just don't know who matches up with Siakam in general. I think his overall spot's amazing. And if they're going to put Pete Nance on him and work the pick and roll and then find the open above the break three scorer, I just think that there's a lot of potential assists for Siakam on paper and a lot of guys that profile well from three, and that does make me feel better about those potential assists going in. So I'll say Siakam here.
For sure. Can certainly get behind that. I'm going to go over to this late night game that we haven't talked a lot about, but definitely is a fun one to talk about. And I like this Chris Dunn spot when it comes to assists, man. You're the one who brought it to my attention when this team played against Cleveland. But when Dunn has played and James Harden hasn't, Dunn has been a major facilitator on the floor. And that continued against Cleveland, where he was able to have 6 assists. On top of that, Sacramento's allowed the 5th most assists over the last 7 games to the point guard position, and the 9th most assist to the point guard position over the whole season. So, really good spot for Chris Dunn.
Yes, it is. Curious to see how that starting rotation works out, but at least we have a decent sample size of Dunn so far.
It's also probably his, I mean, not last shot. I'm sure he'll be in the rotation, but like, if he wants to get a foothold in the rotation, a solid spot in the rotation, I should say, he has until Darius Garland gets back, right? Because once Garland's back, he's going to take over that. Yeah, who knows? But once Garland gets back, it'll knock him out. So this is kind of prove it time for him, most likely. All right, anything else here, Jared? If not, we'll head over to Two Minds Are Better Than One.
We can move on.
Let's move on. Let's head over to Two Minds Are Better Than One. For those who don't know how it works, Jared and I go back and forth, each of us selecting 2 player props each. We put those all together into a parlay, with our goal of the parlay to have odds of plus 100 to plus 150. We play it over on DraftKings Sportsbook, but you can play it wherever you'd like. Jared, I'll let you go first. Where do you want to go?
Can you check for me if we have Knicks props yet?
I am logging in.
Afraid to list that? Okay.
Give me 1 second, because of course now it's not going to send me my verification code. Let me go.
I won't
Knicks.
start there.
Yeah, they have Knicks props.
Okay. That's good to know. I don't know if I'll use it here. Like again, that game, if Towns and Dern weren't missing, I would have just said we fade the entire thing. So just be careful with the Knicks game. Great game to watch, but for fantasy and for betting, it's not the best. I do think though, this game probably is the best game for fantasy and for DFS and for betting, and that is the Bucks Pacers game. We'll go with Nesmith to hit 2 threes. He's hit 3 in 5 straight. You could have argued that he was a hottest shooter section player. We'll go with 2 threes for Nesmith.
Yep, can certainly get behind that. I'm going to go to the Donovan Clingan spot, like we mentioned. Really solid spot. I can see a pure mismatch here with Prosper on the other side. We'll go for 20-plus points plus rebounds. Okay, where do you want to go next?
We didn't get to talk about the spot for Zion. And I don't know if I'm going to do this, but I just want to at least mention it because he is in a fantastic restricted area scoring spot. The Wolves are the second worst team in the restricted area if you filter the last 30 days, which is not something we normally would see with Gobert being there. But we've also seen Minnesota, screw it, it's Friday. We'll play it. They've allowed the 6th most points to power forwards over their last 7 games, drastically decreasing over the entire season. So I can lean into the Zion stuff. I know Trey deserves to be like one of the hottest shooters, but I think they can take him out today with McDaniels. So I will lean into the Zion spot. He's the best restricted area scorer in the NBA now that Giannis isn't playing. So I don't know, 15 plus points, 18 plus points?
We can go 15. That'll work perfectly. Let's go with 15. And then I'm going to go back to this Jaylen Brown spot. Really like the upside. I think the usage looks really good. Like we kind of talked through extensively when we talked about Boston. I think this is kind of with the bad history or the bad historics. Kind of think this is a perfect alt play spot. So
Yep.
we will go with what do we want here? Do we just want points? Do we want rebounds plus assist
You can
here?
add rebounds, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Pace up
Let's
spot, he's already rebounding well.
add rebounds to it. So we will go with 30 plus. Actually works perfectly there. So 30 plus points plus rebounds. So all together, we have Donovan Clingan for 20 plus points plus rebounds, Aaron Naismith for 2 plus 3-pointers made, Zion Williamson for 15 plus points, and Jaylen Brown for 30 plus points plus rebounds. All together, it gets the parlay to plus 133, Jared. All right, man. Let's get out of here. Give your final thoughts.
For a 6-game card, I came in thinking that this is going to be a crappy slate. And, for what it's worth, there are some games in here that are really iffy. Like, I think I'm more optimistic now about Boston than I was coming in. But New York, Detroit is like a rock fight 90s matchup now. And we don't know who's playing center on either side. I think we can assume that Stewart's going to start, and we can probably assume that Cat's out and Mitchell Robinson's going to slide in there to match size. So that game is kind of interesting all over the place. But your hammers are the New Orleans Minnesota game, the Indy Milwaukee game. You can get behind some stuff with Portland. But yeah, just take this next couple of days of games with a grain of salt, considering all the moves that were made this past 3 days. Josh has you covered for a massive slate on Saturday that's going to be full of injuries and chaos and teams that like could view this weekend as like a potential rest spot, because there really aren't that many teams that are going to be playing on the back-to-back, if any, tomorrow into Sunday. So yeah, I'll be curious to see how some of this shakes out. Yeah, I think that there's some really clear, concentrated, great spots in the Indy Milwaukee game. Minnesota's in a tremendous spot. Portland's in a tremendous spot. That's all you kind of need if you're going to play on a 6-game card. There's just enough there.
Yep, for sure. Definitely just enough. Definitely feels like a solid slate, at least as I reviewed it with you briefly here. Definitely can see a few spots that stand out. So should be a lot of fun. Jared, you got anything else? If not, I don't know. What do you want to do? We can shoot the shit about the trade deadline. Not much happened on the day we were off. Most of the stuff that did happen happened on days that we were talking about it. So that actually worked out well for us. But give me your thoughts.
Teams came in, or I guess the media came in and said that we should temper our expectations in terms of the trade deadline moves that were made and the size of them. I think that was drastically wrong. I think that we saw a lot of teams kind of just either blow it up or like not wait until the off season to shift things tremendously. So I don't know. It does feel like more and more that this will be the summer of Giannis, and we'll see how that goes. Though it came out that he never requested a trade. So the highlight of my week has been the NBA Twitter just going bananas on Shams. That's been my favorite thing to watch the past couple of days. They have just rolled on him, which has been, I don't know. I have my thoughts on that because I'll always be a Woj stan. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think my team got better by any means, so it's been a lackluster deadline for me. But Lakers, you expected something more, something less?
No, I'm perfectly fine. I expected like a move to get someone. That's exactly what they did. They got Kennard. I don't think Kennard really matters in the long term. I think it's a good piece to have to potentially re-sign him if he ends up working out well. Also played for Duke, so I'm a fan always. But no, I'm happy with the Lakers. Honestly, I think it was smarter of them to not do anything. Now the Lakers are projected to have more cap space than anyone else in the NBA for 2026 free agency. So like once LeBron's off the books, I think he's definitely not re-signing now. I'm excited. I think that they can make some moves and potentially either trade for someone, re-sign Austin, or a bunch of other potential options. So I really like the Lakers deadline. Mostly because they didn't do anything, and that's exactly what we should have done. I don't think we're contenders this year. I saw some report that said like Lakers have a better playoff team than they do a regular season team. I highly doubt that, but whatever. I think that team really struggles with defense, and there was no easy fix to that without giving up a lot of pieces. So, really happy with what they did, which was nothing. That's exactly what I kind of wanted them to do. Yeah, trade deadline was interesting. I thought that the moves that were made were pretty risky overall. Like we talked
Very
about the
market
Jazz.
reactionary.
Yeah, we talked about the Jazz. Like, there's definitely some risk to Triple J and everything, though. I think that was the best trade made all deadline. I think the James Harden trade was risky. Like, you're depending on a lot. I think the Darius Garland trade's risky because who knows what he looks like outside of that Cleveland team that was so superstar studded for such a long time. And I think the AD trade is like I already made my thoughts clear on that. I think it's like most likely going to be a lose-lose. I think there's avenues to where it's a big win for the Wizards. I think the Mavericks have just accepted that like the AD trade was such a massive mistake last year that they had to recoup something, and this was them trying to do that, which they didn't do a good job of anyway. So, yeah, I don't have many other thoughts. Luckily, like we said, like Thursday was a pretty dead day for trades. We'll see what happens with Giannis in the summer. Maybe he just stays. Maybe it's another thing where maybe it's just a nightmare every single year where we keep having to talk about this and it just keeps on going. Because it's truly been a conversation for like every year since you've won the championship. It's been a conversation.
Yeah, pretty much. I will say that I think that, like you said, risky. I do think that there was a point probably around Wednesday where I think it was probably right before because Jaren Jackson was Tuesday. I don't think that Utah was in any position to try to get Giannis, but since like Wednesday when the AD stuff broke, it kind of felt like Minnesota, like we talked about, Minnesota and Miami were like the two spots that really felt like something was going to happen. Golden State felt like it was, it was a covering headline of the story, but there seemed to be like a tipping point where teams noticed that, like, okay, Giannis isn't going anywhere. What can we do right now to improve our season this year or like position ourselves from now so that we're ready in the summer to make an offer? And then you saw a lot of teams make a lot of really weird decisions. That's kind of what I thought happened because one domino fell and then the James Harden stuff happened and all of a sudden you're just like, who's left to trade for in the next like week. So that's how I felt about that. And then I do think that I'll say the biggest, because I think we should say our biggest winner and biggest loser.
Yeah.
Biggest winner for me is the Jazz. I think that they actually, we talked about this the other day when the Jaren Jackson stuff broke. This is the best projected starting five health considered, since the Donovan Mitchell era, essentially. So you're talking about like 3 years of consistently worst team in the league type of scenario, and you make this move, and I think that you're tremendously better on paper. And as long as that team stays healthy, like we haven't even seen Lauri Markkanen actually play more than like 60 games in a season yet. So I'd be curious to see if that shifts culturally. And then I will say my biggest loser, besides my team, I think my team just was in a lose-lose situation in general.
I think it's honestly like potential for biggest winner, not trading Giannis this at the deadline and waiting until the summer. Like I think
I'm definitely blinded by all this stuff anyway, but
yeah.
Biggest loser. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Warriors. The Golden State Warriors,
man.
biggest loser.
You took my fucking answer, asshole.
Sorry. Well, then we both agree that this was a terrible, terrible deadline for them. Like their season's over. But yeah, their season was over already entering this week. But yeah, they're easily the biggest loser. You tell me why.
Yeah, I think that like to let the trade. So like I saw a video on this. So shout out to The Athletic, and I think it's Frank Michael Smith, something like that does their NBA videos nowadays on TikTok. But he talks about how like Kuminga was like in conversations for like a swap with the Pacers for Pascal Siakam, and now you had to attach him to Buddy Hield to get rid of an expiring contract. Like the downgrade of Kuminga's trade value because of the Warriors' focus on potential instead of win now is like one of the biggest fumbles in quite a long time by ownership. I think the trade value of Kuminga could not have gotten any worse, and it is completely the Warriors to blame for that. And then to get a guy where I understand you have to get something. I understand if you look at it from an upside point of view, there is a lot to love about Porzingis' game with Steph. I just think like the percent chance that you hit the upside value of that is like 5% maybe, with how hard it's been for Porzingis to stay on the floor. I think more than likely he sits out 75% of the remaining games that the Warriors have, and then is probably not enough of a factor to really make things happen in the playoffs. So like doing that, not being able to get Giannis, people won't talk about it, but like I really think there's a conversation that they've wasted the end of Steph's career. Like I don't think they get any better from here on out, and yeah, it's sad because I think that you could have put a really great team around Steph if you weren't focused on upside for Kuminga and upside for Wiseman and all these other guys. And now they're in a spot where it's going to be really hard to come back from because they have a lot of unprotected first, but like we know, no one wanted them. Not even the Bucks wanted those four unprotected first. So yeah, tough times for the Warriors for sure. They're my biggest loser by far. For winner, I was going to say Utah, but I will have a different answer because I don't want to seem too together here. I'll say the Pacers, man. Like, good get from Zubac. I think this has been a struggle for this Pacers team all year long, is the center position, and you take advantage of a Clippers team that's clearly in a sell now mode, and all you have to do is give up Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, and 2 first-round picks. This is a team that just, was very competitive last year and just went to the finals. Like, you add Zubac. I know Tyrese probably won't be back this year, but, like, once you add Tyrese next year, that's a really exciting core to have on top of all these other role players you have that are really talented. Like, I like what the Pacers are putting together. I think the Pacers are in a very good spot after the Zubac trade.
Yeah, I like the move. It was something we attacked all year from a player prop standpoint. Was that interior, and yeah, they definitely have that fixable situation. It was also an injury year from hell for them, and I think that's like, yeah, I do think that they are considered winners in my book as well. Surprised that Philadelphia didn't do more. Now that Paul George is suspended. So I guess that was probably something they couldn't plan for, but now they have to figure it out. The Jared McCain stuff was weird. Also, we do have to talk baseball before we get out of here, but as I transition out of NBA, I'll leave you with this. Did you know, per Dalton Johnson, and it was quote tweeted by the NBA Central, Jonathan Kuminga was reportedly shocked that Golden State traded him to Atlanta. I'm just like sitting here, I'm like, he requested a trade. Why is he shocked he's going anywhere? That was a true head scratcher for me. Pure desperation move from the Warriors.
Yeah, pure. Not only desperation, but I think it's just kind of like a let's get this done and over with, and the rush of that just results in like that's truly an awful trade. Like it's truly really bad. It's. I feel like you're gonna look down the road in 3 years, and Kuminga. He's not going to be all-star level. I don't think he has that level of play, but like I think he will be a very solid contributor, and you'll be like, why didn't this work out for the Warriors? And we'll never know, really. Okay, baseball. What do you got?
Oh, we have to talk about Detroit because they have done 2 amazing things this week. Number one, they went out while Skubal won his arbitration in like what was one of the craziest differences of arbitration that we've seen recently. So good kudos to him. But they got Framber Valdez, man. That's incredible. You have 2. What? Because if we rank Skubal 1, who would you say is where Framber ranks in terms of overall pitcher and as a southpaw in baseball?
I think Framber's like a top 20 pitcher overall, probably. Like I don't rank him like he's not dominant. He's not like a top 10 level type guy, but like the ground ball stuff's really good. See, I'm kind of just on the other page with this. Where like what are the odds that they actually like they disrespected Screwball with the offer that they gave him for arbitration? I feel like the signing of Fromber kind of indicates that they're going to be either willing to let Screwball walk or they're going to get a generational haul at the trade deadline from someone
Right.
for a rental year of Screwball. Like, I don't know. Detroit's been stingy in the past. I don't know how willing they're going to be to open the checkbook for everyone.
Well, I mean, historically speaking, I don't know if this is the same ownership group, but we've seen, Justin Verlander leave this team. We've seen Max Scherzer leave this team. Like we can name a bunch of other guys. I think initially, like I had that same thought when I saw Fromber sign. I was like, well, Scooball's definitely gone now. But what if they just make it work for a year or two and see how it goes? Because they've been
Well,
really, really close, right?
I just feel like there's no making it work for like this is Screwball's walk year. They can make it work for this year, I guess, but like I
Right.
feel like you're doing a disservice to the org if you purely just make it like a ride or die year. Like, sure, that sounds great, but like you're letting a guy walk and you could have got like a generational amount of prospects to rebuild the team as a whole.
Yeah, I get you.
I don't know. I just don't know how willing you are to actually, unless they're really committed to re-signing. Then, like, I think that's great. I think they took a step in the right direction. I think it's a really good team overall. I think they still have their worries. I think bullpen is a worry there. I think in general, hitting is a worry. Health is a worry for that hitting lineup as a whole because they seem to consistently be hurt. But I think there's certainly upside to the team. I just think I kind of have questions about like what are their intentions with Screwball, and I feel like their intentions because of that offer. That is single handedly one of the worst arbitration offers I've ever seen. And not only did they have a bad arbitration offer, they also said that they weren't willing to. So how arbitration works, for those who don't know, is the pitcher or the player gives their number of what they think they should be paid. The team gives their number of what they think the player should be paid. And if they can't come to an agreement on the number, they go to a judge and the judge decides. Now, when you're at the arbitration meeting, you can meet in the middle and come to an in-between and decide on that number before you go to the judge's number, before the judge makes his decision on one or the other. And Detroit clearly said, like, no, we are not willing to meet in the middle. We want this to go to arbitration. I think that tells the tale. Like, that tells me everything that I need to know about what their decision-making process is right now.
I agree.
Right now. Maybe it changes. Who knows?
I'm being optimistic and saying, what if they
Yeah.
have a 1-2 punch of this? Because they've always, in this recent stretch of Schoolball's domination, they just do not have a number two. And
Yeah.
they haven't, and then that has led to this weird bullpen situation. Casey Mize is a really nice back end starter, but like they never had the guy. Like Schoolball had to come in and pitch 3 times in a 7-game series, and now they might have to still do that, but they at least have the comfort of having flexibility. And on Detroit's end, at the very very least, they just I think that they covered their bases well. And it's surprising. If you told me that Fromber landed in Detroit, that would have been one of the last places I would have expected him to go. Currently, the Tigers are plus 2,200, and that's on par to make the World Series with the Reds. With Houston, with Baltimore, with Texas. So that's
That's
still
crazy.
like
That feels
12th.
low.
Yeah, it's very low. Plus 135 AL Central future. Their win total is 85.5. Does that tell you that Screwball doesn't finish the year with them?
Yeah, I think so. Probably, right? Like this is a pretty talented team overall. I had to go look. I'm still I need to do my catch up on who's where and what rotations are going to look like to start out the year. But like they have Flaherty, which is a really solid starter. They
Yeah,
have Casey Mize.
I should backpedal a little bit. He is a solid number 2, but this is
Yeah.
like,
No, I agree. I mean, he's not a number 2 though. Like he's a good
Correct.
middle of the rotation guy. But like they have a solid rotation now. The starting lineup I still have a lot of questions about. Like I think up top, like it looks great. Like I think Riley Green's great. I think Kerry Carpenter's good. Cole Keith's solid. Glaber's solid. But like bottom of the lineup with Wenciel and McKinstry and Dingler and Parker Meadows, like that's just all question mark guys. Like I don't feel good about any of that. So Oh, they got Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen as their closer. I don't know if I like that, but we'll see. They definitely have a lot of other guys though that are interesting. So I don't know. I'm pretty 50-50 on them. Here's another thing that I saw is that like, who is the Tariq Skubal team now? Because the Dodgers are such big favorites at this point that like, do they really feel like they need to give up the farm to get Tariq Skubal to win? I don't think they do. And so like, where else can he go really? Because like Yankees don't have the like other teams that have the prospects. Yankees don't have them. Mariners can make a move on him, but I feel like they probably don't.
Well, and then we can probably get out of here. But
Yeah.
because we could talk for hours and hours on this. But if you look at the top 7, 8 teams in the futures category, you can make an equivalent conversation that while they might not be as good as Skubal has been recently, these last 2 years, you got guys on every single contender that are really, really close to that. Dodgers, you can name 3, if not 4 pitchers. Yankees, I think Max Fried is really dang close when he's on. And then obviously Garrett Cole when he comes back. Tier down probably just because it's so hard to be that good. But yeah, I think Fried is right there. Seattle, like you can name that they have the best rotation in baseball outside of LA. Atlanta has Chris Sale. Toronto's got a couple of really strong guys that obviously now have World Series experience. Yeah.
And Cease on top of that too.
Garrett Crochet from Boston. Like, yeah, it's just what contender? It's not going to be a contender that would get Skubal. I think it's just a team that has a good farm. And
yeah, maybe
is probably like a team that would be desperate enough to do it. San Diego, maybe. Like Cleveland. I don't know. Like just
I could see Seattle.
They would never do it in division, but yeah.
I could see Seattle doing it and giving up like one of the guys, like giving up Wu, giving up Kirby, giving up one of their main pitchers to get
Seattle's
the job done.
One of the only teams I think that could actually do that.
Yeah. So definitely a lot of fun stuff. Should be a fun season. 4 days till catchers and pitchers report, Jared. I know you're getting excited. I am definitely excited as well. Any other thoughts about the NBA slate? If not, we'll get out of here, man.
We don't have any news that broke in the last for today's slate that broke recently since we've been talking. So everything still applies. And as we mentioned earlier in the show, Super Bowl rundown is out for Trinity Analytics members. Josh dropped NFL projections as well. And we'll have final content out either late tonight or very early tomorrow. And that'll all be out before Sunday.
Yes, sir. Exactly. All right, let's get out of here. Thank you all for listening. As always, my name is Joshua Reimer, and we will see y'all on Monday.